Alright everyone, this is the first video in a series of videos that I plan to make this year. There seems to be a bit of discussion online between Bale Skis and Patch Hendricks and the Baler man, Sean Larrabee, between the performance of Bale Skis and the new product that the Baler man has come out with. If you don't already know what's going on, Bale Skis is a plastic bale liner that's been on the market for quite a few years now. And in recent time, I would say probably the last 5, 6, 7 years maybe, it seems like they've been getting a bit of pushback about the claims that they have been making about their product. And we'll dive into that. The Baler man, Sean Larrabee, he is a 40-plus year baler mechanic. He really knows his stuff about balers. He really does know what's going on. He's developed a product that he claims is going to outperform Bale Skis and really kind of goes after the claims that they've been making, and he thinks it's going to be an improvement on that. We don't know right now what's going to happen. But this summer, 2026, I do plan on having a head-to-head test between Bale Skis and the Baler man plates, wedges, whatever you want to call them. I have 2 identical balers. I plan to outfit one of them I already have has Bale Skis in it. I've had the Bale Skis in it since about 2017, give or take. I don't remember exactly when I bought them. And then the other one is stock factory. There's no liner in the chamber. Still makes a great bale, but I plan to outfit that with the Baler man plates and do a head-to-head test. I don't have a horse in this race, okay? I don't have a affiliation with either one of these products or people, but I want to know for myself which if either of these products are going to make a better bale. All right, so a little background on myself. My father and I have what I would call a medium-sized or medium production farm in upstate New York. We make all bale types: small squares, large squares, round bales, both dry and wet. Do about 30,000 small squares a year, maybe a little under 1,000 rounds, and a couple hundred little large squares. We strictly have a mixed grass hay. It's mostly Timothy and orchard grass. We try and target the equine market with the small squares and the beef market for the large bales. Okay. So in our equine market, we really do need and want to have a consistent bale length, weight, and density. The Timothy grass is very sensitive to leaf loss. I want that Timothy head in the bale because my customers want it in the bale. That's what really makes my small squares sell themselves, is having that Timothy head popping out. Okay? So that's what we do. We do not bale straw. We don't do corn stalks, alfalfa, teff, Bermuda, anything like that. We're strictly a mixed grass hay producer. I have a BE in mechanical engineering from the State University of New York, Maritime College. I do have an off-farm job as an engineer. That is my day job. So when it comes to numbers, calculations, material science, things like that, I think I know what I'm talking about. I would like to think I know what I'm talking about. If anyone else has an off-the-farm job as an engineer, you will know what I mean when I say 2026 will be my 21st year making hay in the hay business. My father's been doing it his entire life, 50 plus years, and his father, my grandfather before that. So why am I doing this? Why do I want to do this test? So we have our small square balers are the only ones that I'll be addressing here. I know Bale Skis and the Baler man make a kit for large square balers. I'm not having an issue with length, weight, or density with that. It is just our small square balers. We're running Case IH SBX 540 small square balers. For the smart kids in the room, that's the same thing as the New Holland 575. Very popular baler. There's plenty of them out there. Some guys have issues with banana bales or whatever, but for us, we haven't had that issue. We've really just been trying to dial in on the consistency of weight, length, density, and leaf retention. That's really what I'm going for. So, sometime around 2017 or so, we decided to get a set of Bale skis for the Baler. We only got one. We wanted to try it. And after some discussion at the end of the year, my father and I both agreed that it really didn't do anything for us. Okay? I'm not saying that it doesn't do anything at all, or it doesn't making any improvements in a different crop type, but for what we are doing, it really didn't change anything, to be honest. And I was kind of dissatisfied with that. Now, I'm not one to go trash another company online or really at all in general. I bought the product, I own it. I know they give a 1-year money-back warranty, but I really wasn't interested in taking them up on that. I mean, it's, I just continued to run it. I didn't see a point in taking it out. I didn't see a loss or a gain with the product. Okay. So I'm basically just searching for the best solution for me. This video and the tests that I plan to do in 2026 is not a paid promotion. I purchased each one of these kits from each one of these companies at full retail price. No one's paying me for my videos. No one's paying me for my test opinions, results. I'm not affiliated with either one of these guys. If I piss one of them off because they don't like the results, that's too bad. The truth is going to be what the truth is. I'm doing this test for myself mostly just so I can make the best bale possible. And I'm choosing to share the results that I find with other producers. And they're going to be what they're going to be. It's as simple as that. I do want to touch on that the balers that I run, they're good machines. They've been very trouble-free for me. They do make a good bale from the factory. But New Holland, CNH, there's room for improvement, okay? A lot of guys that run the Massey balers, the inlines, they said that they've been great as far as hitting their length and weight, consistency, and all that stuff. I know a lot of guys that run Barons will have a Massey out front because the Barons are super sensitive to leg issues. But for me, Massey dealer support in my area is slim to none. The closest dealer is well over an hour away. New Holland is, I've got 3 New Holland Case IH. I mean, same these days, but I've got 3 within 30 minutes. So that's why I run the equipment I do. These results from my tests, they're going to be specific to my make, model, baler, my crop type, my prep, the rake I use. They may not translate directly to another producer who's making alfalfa or has a different type of rake or a different brand of baler. I want to drive home that point that this is going to be specific to a similar operator as myself, okay? If you change any of these variables that I'm going to go over for this test, it can completely change the outcome of the results. And it probably would. But I'm doing, like I said, I'm doing this test for me, nobody else. I'm just choosing to share my results and the process that I'm going to do it, the way I'm going to do it. So I just want to talk about how I plan on conducting this test. And one thing, the kind of the point I'm getting at with this first video is that I'm looking for feedback from other producers. I'm going to go over how I want to do my test, but if I'm missing something here, I want to hear about it from you guys. If you guys want to see me measure a different variable or change one of the ways that I plan on doing this test this summer, I'd love to hear about it. I really kind of only want to do this once. I think that should give me enough information to make my decision. But I want to hear from you guys. Did I miss anything, basically? So as far as my operation, I do run older tractors. They're mostly International Harvester tractors from the 80s. It is what it is. I'm not a huge producer. I don't have a ton of money. Here's a couple pictures of my setup. This is the large square baler, how I run that. This is my round baler. This is the rake that I use. I've since sold the tractor in the picture, but this is the rake that I use. I've got 3 of these rakes. They're all the wheel rakes. One is a 9-wheel inline rake where it only moves the hay one direction. This one in the picture is a 12-wheel V rake, and the other one I have is this one here, which is an 18-wheel V rake. You guys, you can say what you will about the rakes, all right? I know that the rotary rake crowd is kind of like a cult following. Everyone I've talked to loves them, but they're just not for me. They don't fit into my operation. I personally think that they have too many moving parts, too many modes of failure. That's just the engineer speaking. So we choose to run these wheel rakes, these ground drive wheel rakes. makes. They work great for us. I think that they're relatively affordable. The bigger ones can get expensive, but they're pretty affordable. Parts and maintenance wise, there's really little maintenance, and parts are cheap, so that's what we choose to do. Mower wise, here's a couple other pictures of the equipment I run. We'll get into the mowers. So for the mowers, I have 2 disc spines. They're both CNH, New Holland Case IH, same thing. I have a 13-footer and a 16-footer. They both have roll conditioners. The 13-footer is a Case IH DCX 131 13-foot roll conditioner with the 2-point swivel hitch. The 16-footer, which is in the background there, that's a New Holland H7460 roll type conditioner with a drawbar swivel hitch. So that's how I'm going to be doing this test. Okay, when I do my test, I'm only going to use one of these just so everything is consistent through the test, just trying to eliminate variables. So it's going to be one of these. I'll probably use the 16-footer just because that's basically my daily driver. I have to ted my hay. All right, in upstate New York, we've run into quite a bit of moisture in the middle of the summer. It can get dry, but not super dry to the point where we don't have to ted it. I have 2 of these tedders. You can see the other one in the background there. These tedders are branded H&S. They're made by Citrex, actually, though, in Italy. But it's the model is the ST780H. They're 6-rotor trailed tedders. I like them. They're fairly robust. Maintenance-wise, they're not too terrible. Parts are available. The main reason I bought them is because of the transport tires and how the entire unit, the tedder frame will lift off the ground, and then the machine will be transported on like regular 16-inch implement tires. A lot of the guys in my area, they've got tedders that just still sit on the little tiny 5x15 lawnmower tires, and they go down the road like that, and they sway and stuff like that, and I just wasn't really into that. So that's why I kind of spec'd out these 2 tedders and got these. But that's how I'm going to be making the hay. We're going to be cutting it with a 16-foot mower, and we're going to be tedding it with either one of these tedders or both. See how it goes. And then it's probably all going to be raked with either this 18-wheel rake or the 12-wheel here. It's probably going to be the 12-wheel. That's typically our daily driver. That makes a nice sized windrow for first crop. Second cutting or thinner first cutting, we'll bust out the 18-wheeler and use that guy. But this is how I kind of plan to do my test. On the day of cutting, tedding, raking, baling, all that fun stuff, I plan to measure and record the heat and humidity and basically the weather variables, and share that with all you guys and include that in the test results. But I wanted to go over, just kind of touch on my equipment and how this is going to be done. I don't want to hear any comments from anyone about, oh, you should have used a V-rake, or, New Holland mowers are junk or whatever. That's not what this test is about. This test is just about eliminating all the variables, so the only thing that we're really testing are the type of liner that's in the small square pellet. So, and then here's the balers. I have 2 of these balers. This is a picture I took. Not really a great picture, but this would be a stock picture of what it looks like from the front. It's the same as the New Holland 575. So, what exactly are we going to be looking at here? Or what am I going to be looking at here for this test? I'm kind of basing this off of Bale skis. They're the ones on the market. They're the ones making these claims. And, like I said in the beginning, I was kind of dissatisfied. So I want to hold Bale skis accountable for some of the claims that these are making. This is from their website or their Facebook page. I'm not sure where exactly I got this, but this is from them. All right. So I just kind of want to touch on each one of these claims that they make about their product. So extend your baler life. The material has 3 times wear resistance of mild steel. So Bale skis do that. Okay. If you don't have the crop going down the chamber and wearing away at your bale chamber, of course it's going to extend your baler life. I can't take that away from Bale skis. It does save on wear of the actual baler. And the material 3 times the wear resistance of mild steel, I got to believe that. I'm going to actually say that it's probably more than 3x. All right. There was some comments on Facebook from Patch Hendricks, who was basically their Eastern sales rep, if I'm correct, kind of discussing what the material is. He claimed that it was ultra high molecular weight polyethylene plastic, which actually has a better wear rating than 3X. It would be closer to like 10X of mild steel. But then I also saw another comment on Facebook from the official Bale Skis Facebook account, whoever runs that, probably the manufacturer out in Montana, where they said it was a secret proprietary plastic. Okay, well, whatever it is, it's probably something like HDPE or UHMPE, ultra high molecular weight polyethylene. It's not Teflon. That would completely price them out of where they are. Teflon's extremely expensive for those of you who don't know. But either way, it is a super high resistant, slippery plastic, low friction coefficient plastic. So it does extend your baler life. You can't take that away from them. It absolutely does do that. That would be 100% true. All right, so save fuel costs. That's what I'm looking at now. And then it says reduced power consumption of baler and reduced costs of picking, stacking, and transporting bales saves fuel. Okay. So there's a little bit to unpack here. So reduced power requirements of the baler. What I think that where they're getting that from, I think, is the fact that it's a low friction plastic. All right. So you are reducing the friction coefficient of when the bale is being formed, therefore inferring less fuel. Okay. I'm not sure if I buy that, right? Because if we lower the friction in the bale chamber, with the liner, we've got to make up with it somewhere else in order to get weight. If we eliminate the friction in the bale chamber, we're just going to be pushing out 10-pound bales, right? If there's no resistance, you're not going to be building mass on each plunger stroke, and you're not going to be getting weight. So one thing that I did notice when I installed the Bale Skis in my baler was I did have to increase the hydraulic tension on the baler. Both my balers have the New Holland hydroformatic tension or whatever. You just turn a knob and it increases the pressure going to the top rail of the baler. I had to bump that up a little bit. Like I said, if we're reducing friction in the bale chamber, we got to make up with it somewhere else in order for that bale to be formed properly. So I don't really know what they measured or where they got that information from to make that claim. But the thing that really chafes my ass here is where they claim reduced cost of picking, stacking, and transporting bales saves fuel. What the fuck does a plastic liner have to do with trucking hay? Or picking hay or stacking hay or any of these three, processes that they listed? What the fuck is a plastic liner going to do to reduce my trucking bill? I mean, come on, if Bale Skis wants to chime in on that, I'd love to hear how they came up with that statement. Or is this just marketing hype? I mean, I hate to, I'm really, really not, I'm trying to stay as neutral as possible here. I really don't have a bone to pick with Bale Skis about the product. I mean, it seems like a pretty robust product. It does hold up over time. I've seen that. But with some of these marketing claims that they make, it's just, from a engineering and scientific standpoint, it's like, where are you guys getting this from? Like, that's just pure snake oil salesman right there. Consistent bale length, weight, and density. Critical to the success of mechanical pickup systems. So, critical to the success of mechanical pickup systems. What they mean by that is for the guys that are running accumulators, Barons, Bandits, Arcusans, stuff like that. A lot of those things are super sensitive to length, right? But that's true. Having a consistent bale length is pretty critical to those machines operating successfully. Now, they're claiming that the Bale Ski helps with a consistent bale length, weight, and density, right? So that is one of the biggest reasons I purchased Bale Skis and I put them in my baler, is because I was having issues with bale length, not so much weight and density, but the length, right? So when you're forming the bale and you have that spring back every time the plunger retracts, you can watch the metering wheel rock back and forth with each one of those plunger strokes. And what I noticed with my balers is that sometimes when it should be tripping, it wouldn't, because it wouldn't be holding the hay back. It would almost, in a sense, be floating in the chamber. So sometimes it may either trip too early or trip too late, which would affect the bale length, because you're having so much movement in the chamber when it's not necessarily adding hay and forming a bale. That's just what I've noticed. Okay, we're gonna test this, and we're gonna put the numbers on paper and put them into Excel and do all that, and we're gonna get. I would like to get to the bottom of this. Okay, but that's what I've noticed. Fewer nodder problems. Covers all 4 sides of the bale chamber to ensure constant uniform movement of hay. So it does cover all 4 sides. Yep, sure. Does it ensure constant uniform movement of hay? That's another thing that we're trying to figure out here. And the big claim here is the fewer nodder problems, right? I can tell you right now, both of my balers have been pretty reliable. Very, very few issues with either one. I cannot say for sure that the one with skis had less problems than the one that didn't, right? Because they're that close. I mean, really, I've had these balers quite a few years now. They both have a decent amount of hay through them. They both have needed some things, but not much, okay? And the stuff that it has needed, that they have, really hasn't been nodder or chamber related. It's been other stuff. It's been some of the chains on the feeder fork system, some stuff in the pickup head, stuff like that. Both of mine, I use kicker wagons, okay? I don't have an accumulator system. That's how we do it. A lot of the hay that I put up goes into old dairy barns from the 1800s, where it's going into a second floor hay mow, and without completely, in a sense, either putting up a new building or rebuilding the buildings that I have, I'm kind of stuck for my operation doing loose bales. It sucks. I'm kind of at the point now where I could make a accumulator or a Baron pencil. Maybe not a Baron, but I could definitely make something, work for my operation if I had the proper storage, which I don't. But in terms of the amount of hay that I make, I'm definitely due for an accumulator or some kind of mechanical system. But anyway, I digress. What I was getting at with that is that a lot of the work that my balers have needed was on the thrower attachment, really. Not so much the baler itself, more so the thrower, which the liner has absolutely nothing to do with that. All right. So the next bale ski claim: reduced repair costs, okay, and non-stick properties prevent buildup in the bale chamber. So when it comes to reduced repair costs, me buying this liner has nothing to do with the price of replacement parts or the price of labor. Okay, they're not reducing that cost for me. They might be insinuating that you're going to have less breakdowns, but like I just covered, I really haven't seen that. And as far as non-stick properties prevent bale chamber buildup, is anyone having that problem? I'm not. Okay, the only time I've ever seen something stick to the bale chamber has been, if you let the baler sit for a week, right? Whether the hay is, I've noticed it a little bit more if you got like some damp hay or some borderline hay, or maybe you're out baling too late that night and you put the baler away, and after a couple days of sitting or whatever, you might get some grass stuck to the side of the chamber. But there's nothing building up in the chamber, right? And the second you go make 10 bales with that baler, all that stuff that's stuck there is going to get wiped right out. So I'm not really... If someone has this problem with a different crop type, please let me know. If this is a serious problem with, alfalfa or Bermuda or teff or whatever, let me know. But I haven't ran into anything that has anything to do with, buildup of the bale chamber, right? The next claim here is works in all kinds of climates with all kinds of forage, and a special self-adjusting material stabilizes friction. Kind of a lot going on here, a lot to unpack. So, works in all kinds of climates, right? Sure, you can install this in any baler, kind of no matter where it's operating, right? Whether you get a performance difference or not, I'm not sure. That's kind of what I'm trying to unpack here. But yeah, sure, you can install it in a baler in any kind of climate. There's guys in Canada that run them. There's guys in Texas and Arizona that run them. You can do that. What they're trying to get at, I'm not sure. And with all kinds of forage, yeah, sure, you can put a liner in and then run whatever the fuck you want through your baler. But are you going to get a performance difference? I don't know. That's what we're trying to figure out. That's what I'm trying to figure out here is, when I say we, I'm talking about me and other producers, okay? I'm I have not teamed up with Bale Skis. I have not teamed up with Sean Larrabee, the Baler man. I'm doing this on my own. When I say we, I'm talking about the other guys online talking about the issues that they're having. Okay. So works with all kinds of forage. Yeah, you can put a liner in and run whatever the fuck you want through your baler, but are you going to get a performance difference? That's my question. Because with grass hay, with my operation, I haven't seen a change really at all. Now, maybe if you're running alfalfa, yeah, maybe it really helps. I don't know. I can't answer that. If you guys making a lot of alfalfa want to do this test, go right ahead. I would love to see different results with different crop types, but for my test, it's going to be with what I make. And special self-adjusting material stabilizes friction. Plastic is, all types of plastic, quite honestly, are some of the most inert products ever. They don't change. They don't change with heat expansion. They don't conduct heat. They don't conduct electricity. You know, that's one of the biggest reasons why we're trying to recycle so much plastic in the world, right? And why, you know, plastic pollution is a problem, because it doesn't go away. It's very stable over the long term. You know, you might get some issues with sun fading or whatever on certain plastic products, but self-adjusting material, I would love to know what they mean by a self-adjusting material, because like I said, plastics are some of the most inert products ever. They don't change, you know, unless you chemically change them somehow, but they're super stable. So I don't know what they're talking about when they say self-adjusting. I mean, all types of polyethylene are incredibly stable. Polyethylene, by the way, is pretty much the same thing. HDPE, high density polyethylene, that's what your kitchen cutting board is made out of. Okay? Think about all the acidic foods and juices and, you know, physical wear that's going on with your kitchen cutting board. It really doesn't change, right? Now, if you run it through the dishwasher a million times with a high heat cycle, you know, the heat may do something to it. But when it comes down to the Bale Ski plastic, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about some type of polyethylene here. Someone, I think it was Patch on Facebook, said it was ultra high molecular weight polyethylene, which is, it's the same type of plastic. It's just more dense. It's heavier, right? There's more molecules packed into it. So it gives you the same properties, but with a better resistance to wear the chemicals, okay? So I would love to hear from Bale Skis on what this special self-adjusting, what they mean by a self-adjusting material. I'd love to hear their thoughts on that explanation. And finally, we get down to 30% leaf loss. Okay, so for me, this was another huge reason why I wanted that Bale Ski. Like, why I bought Bale Skis. Like I said, I make a Timothy hay. I want that head of Timothy in the bale. Okay? So when they claim 30% leaf loss, they got me on that. Okay, I really haven't noticed the difference just by looking at the hay, right? I haven't measured anything yet, but I plan on doing that. But I really haven't noticed, like, hey, the baler with the skis has way more Timothy hanging out of it than the other factory baler. I haven't noticed that, you know, just from visually looking at the hay I make. But they talk about the anti-springback property, machined full length. The anti-springback pattern, machined full length in the liner, helps keep hay compressed even when the plunger retracts, decreasing leaf shatter and increasing forage value. Yeah, if you can keep more leaves in there, the forage value is going to be greater and you're going to have less leaf shatter. But does the Bale Ski really do that? That is the question at hand. And if you guys are familiar with it, the pattern that's cut into these Bale Skis is recessed into the chamber wall. How much hay is actually getting caught by that and preventing springback? I don't think it's much. You know, you're kind of relying on a really almost ass-backwards thought process to catch that and prevent that springback. I mean, how's it going to get into that recessed pocket there when it just went through the plunger head essentially and got formed into something? I don't know. I'm not really sure what their thought was on this. But I don't think that they do much to prevent springback. That's why I'm really curious to see these Baler Man plates. And I do want to touch on that. So the plates that Sean's coming out with, are derived from the 1950s engineering from John Deere. Okay, they use that in their older small square balers. They use them in like the John Deere 100 large baler. At one point, we did run Deere balers on our farm. It's been a long time, but I do remember having those plates in some of them. I never really noticed it. This was before Bale skis came out, right? But Sean's pattern is pretty much a copy of what John Deere did. Now, the difference is that Sean's plates are longer in the bale chamber. They're a lot cheaper than Deere, honestly, if you spec out how much surface area you're covering inside the bale chamber. And he's saying that they're hardened, a lot harder. Okay, time will tell with all that. But it's a very similar pattern to bale skis, but it's protruding into the bale chamber. And if you want to talk about preventing springback, that's a one-way street there with the plates from Sean. When that hay goes past it, it's not going to come back. At least I don't think it will. Time will tell, and again, that's why I'm doing this whole test, because I want to find out for myself what's going on here, and if any of these claims from Bale skis are really legit or holding up. I do have a picture here that I can share of basically the plates that Sean has. So this is from Deere's website. This fits like the older small square balers, 336, I think like the 224T, stuff like that. This is basically what Sean's plates look like. His are longer, and I believe the dimples are taller. It's much more aggressive. But I remember seeing these in some John Deere balers. What will happen over time is these dimples will wear out on the top. The hay will wipe that right off, and you'll just be left with a pocket here. So allegedly Sean had these hardened pretty good, and maybe they'll stand up a lot longer. I don't know. But when it comes to actually stopping the springback, this is going to do it over a bale ski, in my opinion. Like I said, it's a one-way street. Once this hay gets pushed back past that, it's not going to come back, whereas it completely can with a bale ski. So I think stopping that springback and decompression with every plunger stroke is really going to help. We'll see. Time will tell. That's what I want to get down to. So when it comes to Sean, the baler man, his claims, he's basically just going after every one of these bale ski claims. He's kind of attacking this from every front. The only thing he hasn't touched is extending your baler life. He has conceded that that's true, and it is. As a bale ski owner, I know that that's true. It's some of this other stuff that really makes me wonder, and that's the thing. That's why I want to do this test. There's a lot of other producers that are seeing that bale skis isn't holding up to half of these claims, and I'm really not trying to trash bale skis here. I'm really trying to stay neutral, but just from my experience and being a bale ski owner, half the stuff's bullshit, to be honest with you. I haven't seen it. Now, maybe it doesn't do shit for grass hay. Totally possible. Maybe the guys that are making alfalfa, maybe it's a complete godsend to them. I don't know. But for me and my operation, it hasn't done much. I'm not saying it's junk, okay? It seems like a stout, robust product. Is it worth what they're asking? Fuck, I don't know. That's what they're selling it for, and they've been in business. Do with that information what you will. Another thing, while we're kind of bouncing back and forth between both products, one thing that's been in the back of my mind is a combination between the two. Possibly having Sean's plates up front near the plunger to stop that spring back, but then having a cut down section of bale ski in the rest of the baler just to protect the chamber, because I know it does that. So maybe depending on what the results of my test are and what next year brings, that may be another set of another test that I can do. We'll see what happens with this first round. So anyway, so back to my test. Sorry for the length of the video. I just really wanted to kind of go over all the basics with this one. But back to my test. I've gone over the Baler Case IH SBX 540. I've got two of them. They're going to be equally set and all adjusted the same. The only difference between the two is going to be the liners and the fact that the baler that I have the bale skis in, it does have the Agritronics BHT2 moisture meter with the 2 sensor pads in the chamber. That is, as far as I'm concerned, that's not going to do anything, or very little, not even a measurable amount to affect this test. If you guys think it is, well, then you can go buy 2 balers and fucking take the moisture meter out and run the test yourself. But I'm leaving it in. I'm not taking it out. I don't think it's going to be a big deal. The other thing is the one with the Bale skis does have a acid sprayer on it, a preservative sprayer. I'm not going to use that during the test. I'll make sure that whatever hay I'm baling is low enough moisture-wise where it doesn't need to be sprayed, but it does have a sprayer on it, but it's not going to be used during the test. And finally, when it comes to the balers, this is kind of a bone I have to pick with New Holland. You guys that are running these balers, you'll know from the factory, out of the box, these balers come with this goofy color-coded pressure gauge for your hydraulic tension. I've never seen something dumber in my life, okay? Every other pressure gauge ever has numbers on it. It has a numeric, finite scale, whether it's metric or American. It's got numbers and a graduated scale. Why New Holland decided to do this color-coded gauge with ambiguous, like 1 through 5 or whatever it was, 1 through 10 numbers, I have no idea. I think it was the dumbest fucking thing ever. It makes no sense to me. Several years ago, I took those gauges out and replaced it with just a regular old, hydraulic pressure gauge. I think the gauges I run are 0 to 400 psi, and that's been fine. That's not a super high pressure system. But then you can at least say, if you're going to switch operators or whatever, or keep records of where your pressures were at, you can say, oh, I was at 180 psi, right? That's a set number. That is a finite value. Whereas the factory gauge is this green, yellow, red, color-coded gauge. I mean, if anyone from New Holland sees this, do you think farmers are stupid? Do you think we can't read a pressure gauge? Just put a regular pressure gauge in the fucking baler. Come on, guys. I digress. Anyway, the tractors that are going to be dragging these balers around. I've got 2 of these 1086s. They're identical. I think they're a couple years apart. They both have the DT414 unmolested engine, set at factory horsepower, blah, blah, blah. They both have air conditioning. The air conditioning is going to be set on full for the duration of the test. If the operator gets cold, he can open a window. But we're going to keep the AC on full blast just so, because I do know, just from experience, that the air conditioner, if on these 2 tractors that I have, fuel consumption, there's a pretty big difference. I was kind of surprised when I got the AC working on these guys, how much of a difference in fuel there is when you're running the AC versus when you're not. So I know that, I just know my equipment well enough to know that the air conditioning makes a big difference in fuel consumption. So basically my plan for the test is to copy what Bale skis did. So we can, if we go over to their website, and it's going to be under more information and then third-party testing. Bale skis, I guess, hired the Alberta Farm Machinery Center up in Canada to do some testing for them. And again, with some of these Bale ski claims, it's just kind of disappointing. Looking at it from an engineer's perspective, it's pretty disappointing, some of the claims that they make and how they're interpreting their data. Okay. So I do want to go through this because some of it's kind of insane from an engineering standpoint. But anyway, Bale skis developed a liner to improve performance in square balers. The liner was designed to fit in the bale chamber of the baler. LD Ag Machinery requested third-party testing to be conducted on the liner to determine its effect on power required, percentage of leaf loss, uniformity of bale length, and nodder performance, right? So Bale skis were extensively tested in Alberta. The tests were executed using a singular 575 New Holland baler. Awesome. I'm going to be using the same machine. The hay consisted of a 60% orchard grass and 40% alfalfa mix. Moisture content was 15%. Yep, they're spot on with their moisture. I'm going to have a different grass hay, but whatever. Leaf loss was collected. I plan on doing the same thing. Field was a 1/4 mile long. I've got a field that's a little over a 1/4 mile long, but that's irrelevant. Who cares what kind of field you're in, really? Test procedures. So I plan on copying this as best as I can when I do my test. The testing procedure involved installing Bale ski liners and then running the baler up the length of the field 1/4 mile and then back down 1/4 mile, covering a 1/2 mile windrow. We then removed the liner and repeated the same run, switching back and forth at each run. Okay, well, I can tell you right now, I'm not going to fucking do that. I don't have the time for that. I don't have the time to be fucking around, do that. I still have to make hay. I still got to get the hay in the barn, guys. Okay, so that's why I'm just doing this with 2 balers. If you have a problem with 2 different balers, because there may be some minor differences and adjustments, well, then, like I said earlier, you go get 2 balers, or you can do your own test however you want, but this is how I'm going to do my test. I'm going to run 2 balers. The tests were done for 3 12-hour days. Good for them. The bale chamber, including the nodder area and under the baler, was wrapped in a tarp and then emptied. The contents were weighed by the gram at the end of each run. The purpose of this was to measure the amount of leaf loss after each run. Yeah, I plan on doing the same exact thing, except we're not going to be measuring in grams. We're going to be using freedom units, because this is America. Each bale was weighed and measured for length and recorded at each run. Each bale was double-checked by 2 people, weighing and measuring each bale by hand. I'm going to stop right there for a second. That's well and good. I plan on doing the same exact thing, but I'm just going to be using 1 person because, like I said earlier, I have shit to do. I got to get the hay in the barn. This test is for me. No one's paid me for it, so I'm going to be doing the recording, and that's it. Now, this part here is really interesting to me. The tractor and baler were also hooked up to sensors and recorders. Now, we'll read through the rest of this, but this is the only place where they mention this. What sensors and recorders? What were we measuring? Why are we even mentioning this here if it's not touched upon at all after this? You know, Baleskis, or anyone, if anyone knows what exactly they were measuring and what type of sensors they were, I would love to know, just from an engineering standpoint. But what are we talking about here, guys? I mean, this is like marketing wank, right? We're gonna just make this statement. Oh yeah, we measured shit. Well, what the fuck were we measuring here, guys? What, you know, was this just to try and solidify your results of the test just by saying you made it scientific? I mean, if you really did this, I'd love to know what you were measuring, how you were measuring it, and more importantly, where's the fucking data? Right? You took, I guess they took the time to rig this baler up and this tractor up with a bunch of high-tech shit, but I figured you would want to share that information, right? Anyway, we'll continue here. Percentage of leaf loss. Leaf loss was significantly different. Leaf loss occurred with the liner, less leaf loss occurred with the liner installed compared to the test without the liner. Well, that's cool. How much are we talking? Where did Baleskis get their claim of 30% leaf loss? Right? Is it from this? Is it from this test in Alberta? I mean, if it was, where's the data? Share the data. Don't just make a claim and not back it up. We would all love to see this data. Okay, so they're going to say less leaf loss was significantly different. Well, that's an ambiguous word. What the fuck is significantly different? Are we talking about an ounce, or are we talking about 10 pounds? Right? And for those of you guys that are selling by the ton, anything you lose out of the baler is a loss financially. I mean, even if you're selling by the bale, really, because it's less hay making it into the final product. But you guys selling by the ton, I do sell some hay by the ton. You know, if you're losing pounds and pounds and pounds of leaves and chaff, that's a problem, right? So if you're going to make a claim that, oh, well, we have significantly less leaf loss, well, how much is it? What are we talking about here? Where are the numbers? Uniformity and bale length. Again, here we go with this fucking ambiguous numbers. Bale length uniformity was significantly different. Well, what the fuck is significant? Are we talking about 1/10 of an inch or like 4 inches? I would love to know, because a 1/10 of an inch, no one's gonna buy a fucking a piece of plastic to line their baler with for $1,200-$1,300 if this significant bale length difference is 1/10 of an inch, because it's not. That doesn't matter. You know, we don't care about that. We want to be within an inch, right? Or maybe within 2 inches. But if the difference is minimal, right, from this Canada study, who cares? So when they make these claims and there's no numbers to back it up, that's when the red flags start going up for me. That's when the alarm bells start going off in my head. Bales formed with the liner installed were more uniform in length than those formed without the liner. Yeah, well, by how much? Right? Knotter performance. There were no incidents of broken bales or knotter problems with the liner installed. Okay? Knotting problems resulted in broken bales occurred without the liner. Well, why? I would love to know, what type of problem are we talking about, okay? Was it something to do with the liner, or did you get a knot that came apart on the fucking changeover between the twine balls? Because that'll happen to me, right? I mean, like I said, I've got a baler with skis, I've got a baler without skis, that's basically factory. They're both great. When it comes to knotting, you know, when it comes to misties, it's minimal. And if I go make 1,500 bales with either one of them, I might have 10 bales break, maybe 15. You know, we're talking 1%, give or take. And probably 4 or 5 of them are going to be from my own fucking knots that I tied between the twine balls. All right? That's on me. And most of the rest of them are because I use throwers, okay, I don't have an accumulator or a bundler. It's from the bales landing in a fucked up way in the wagon. It happens, right? You're throwing a 50-pound brick through the air with 2 little pieces of plastic holding it together. You're gonna have a couple cases where the bale busts open on impact. It's unavoidable when you're making hay the way I make hay. But when it comes down to the baler fucking up, that's slim to none. The actual knotter issues for me have been slim to none. And I don't think that the liner has much of an effect on that. Conclusion. Bale skis are great. No leaf loss, uniform bales. Yeah, awesome, right? So this is from their website. So I'm just trying to duplicate this test, okay? There's going to be a couple things that I change just because that's the way I'm going to do it. But if this is the test that Bale Skis is claiming all of their marketing claims off of, if I copy this as close as I can, I think that's going to give me some pretty good information. So for my test, I'll wrap this up quick, guys. It's probably going to be way too long of a fucking video, but here we are. So for my test, I'm going to have both balers running in the middle of the day together. We'll probably start out, we're going to do our normal thing. We're going to cut, ted, rake, bale. Obviously not all in one day, but we're going to do our thing. We're going to get the balers rolling. We're going to get everything dialed in, and then we're going to do our test probably in the middle of the day once each baler has made some bales. Because we're going to start these balers out with essentially zeroed out, if you will. The complete, identical settings from the factory, whatever the book recommends, blah, blah, blah. And we're going to just have the only variable being the liner. Now, if we run into a problem where if we completely zero out the balers and make them exactly the same and isolate the only variable down to the liner, and one baler is making a 10-pound bale and the other baler is making a 70-pound bale or whatever, well, we're going to have to do some adjustments to at least get them fucking close, because I'm trying to make a 50 to 55-pound bale coming out of the baler and about 34 inches in length, plus or minus, let's just say 2 inches, right? I would like to be within an inch, but we'll say 2 inches. But we got to get them at least comparable for the test, so we can just kind of isolate down, well, how different are we? How far off from 50 pounds and 34 inches can we keep these balers, right? But we got to get them dialed in, and then we're going to do the test. It seems like these guys had a lot more data. If they were doing half-mile turns for 3 12-hour days, that's cool. I don't have fucking time for that. I'm going to do a wagon load, right? My kicker wagons hold between 100 and 120 bales, somewhere around there. I'm going to do a wagon load. That's pretty much all the time I have for it. I think we'll get enough information from that to come up with some good data, but we'll see what happens. I'm going to measure each bale for length and weight, just like they did here. And then we're going to plug all that information into Excel. We're going to calculate the density, and we're going to do some calculations on the raw data. We're going to do the high, low, average, standard deviation, which is super fucking critical for what we're doing here, weight, and density. and we're going to plot it. We're going to make some graphs so we all have a visual representation of what's going on, and we're going to put a tarp under it. We're going to measure leaf loss. We're going to put a tarp under the baler. We're going to measure the chaff and leaf loss and go from there. And as far as fuel consumption, because Bielskis loves to claim, and the other thing is there's no information about that in this test, right? But they love to claim saving fuel, right? So for that, I'm just going to fill up both tractors, do the test, fill them up again, measure how much each one did. I hope 100 bales is enough to have some kind of measurable difference, but we'll see what happens. It might not be a big enough test to do that. And if that's the case, we can always maybe modify the test, run it again. But I'm really concerned about my concerns, okay, for my operation are consistent bale length, weight, and density, and leaf loss. That's really what I'm concerned about. That's what I'm going after. The rest of this we've either deduced is either legit, they extend the life of your baler, or it's kind of fucking bullshit, right? And the one that really, really annoys me is this one right here. Saving fuel costs, right? We're going to reduce the cost of picking, stacking, and transporting your bales, right? With a plastic liner. Anyway, I hope I covered everything. I hope I explained my operation and my goals enough for you guys. But that's what I plan on doing this summer. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, or input on the test or anything maybe I should measure differently, please comment. Send me a message. I'll read all the comments. I might not respond to everybody, but that's what I plan on doing. So, like I said, I've had Bielskis for a while. I'm just really not satisfied with them, if that makes sense. I'm really not trying to trash them. I'm really not. But it seems like their marketing has almost gone off the deep end in the past few years, and they've gone further into these crazy claims, and I'm kind of tired of it, right? You get on Facebook sometimes and, someone will make a post, oh, what do you think about Bielskis, right? And it seems like more and more people sharing negative experiences. So for the first couple of years I had them, I kind of kept my mouth shut because I thought maybe it's just my operation, maybe it's my crop type, maybe it's my baler, whatever, blah, 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 But when you start seeing more and more people catching on here, really got me thinking. All right, I'm going to cut this video off, and like I said, if you guys have any input, feel free. I want to try and, I'm going to make this test for me. Those are the things that I want to measure, but if you guys, the other producers out there, have anything different that you want to see measured, let me know, and I'll try and work into the test the best I can. So, yeah, this summer, we're going to get the other baler, or this spring, we're going to get the other baler rigged up with the Baler Man kit, and we're going to put them head-to-head, side-by-side. We're going to do some other things to the baler just so it's as equal as possible. Each baler is going to get new plunger knives, new stationary knives, new hay dog springs, new trip arms, new metering gears that, the little gear that engages with the trip arm, and a new spring for the trip arm. That's kind of my plan, just so we can have the best test possible. All right, guys, hopefully we get the next video out in a few months. We'll see you this summer.